Expansion was discussed both at a committee level and at the board, and ultimately the league office was tasked by our board with doing an in-depth analysis.
Welcome back to the Clark Update. WNBA fans, something major is happening around Caitlin Clark, Adam Silver, and the future of the league. After the latest developments involving Clark and the New York Liberty, Silver has addressed the broader situation, and his comments have sparked a major conversation across women's basketball. So, what really happened, and why is Adam Silver's position creating so much attention? Let's break it all down. For years, the WNBA operated with a relatively cautious growth strategy. The league developed its identity, built its fan base, and relied heavily on the dedication of players and longtime supporters. But the arrival of Caitlin Clark changed the business conversation almost overnight. Clark entered the WNBA with an enormous following from college basketball. Her popularity translated into record crowds, television audiences, merchandise sales, and unprecedented online attention. Suddenly, the league was no longer being discussed simply as a growing sports property. It was becoming one of the most important stories in American basketball. That created a complicated situation for the league. Clark's rookie season featured incredible performances, but it also included intense physical play and constant media attention. Several incidents involving hard fouls and confrontations became national stories. Supporters argued that Clark was being targeted, while others insisted that she was simply experiencing the physical reality of professional basketball. Either way, the conversation became impossible for the league to ignore. The question was no longer just about one player. It was about how the WNBA should protect its stars while maintaining the competitive identity that its veteran players had spent years building. This is where Adam Silver and the NBA's growing involvement became especially important. The WNBA has always had its own leadership and identity, but the NBA remains deeply connected to the league. As the WNBA's popularity has exploded, the business stakes have become much larger. Television rights, sponsorships, ticket sales, international exposure, and player salaries are all part of a rapidly changing financial picture. And Caitlin Clark is at the center of that transformation. The league's new media rights agreement, reportedly worth billions of dollars across its various components, demonstrates just how dramatically the value of women's basketball has changed. Networks and streaming platforms are now competing for the opportunity to broadcast WNBA games to a much larger audience. That means every major storyline carries more weight. A Clark game can attract casual viewers who might not otherwise watch the WNBA. A nationally televised matchup can introduce millions of fans to established stars and veteran players. And a rivalry involving Clark, the New York Liberty, or another major franchise can become a national sports event rather than simply another game on the schedule. That opportunity also creates pressure. The league cannot afford to treat its biggest stars as though nothing has changed. At the same time, it cannot create the impression that one player receives a completely different set of rules. That balance is extremely difficult. There has also been significant discussion surrounding Clark and USA Basketball. Her exclusion from the 2024 Olympic roster became one of the biggest debates in women's basketball. Some believe the decision was based strictly on basketball considerations and roster experience. Others believe the enormous public reaction showed just how quickly Clark had become one of the most influential figures in the sport. Whatever someone believes about that decision, one thing is undeniable: the conversation surrounding Clark had become much bigger than her statistics. Her presence affects television ratings, attendance, social media engagement, merchandise, sponsorships, and national media coverage. That is why the league's relationship with Clark has become such a fascinating business story. The WNBA has spent decades developing players who deserve recognition, and veterans have every reason to expect fairness and respect. At the same time, the league now has a young superstar capable of bringing millions of new fans through the door. The challenge is making sure those two realities can coexist. There is also a major shift happening in the style and presentation of the league. More games are receiving national exposure. Production quality continues to improve. Teams are playing in larger venues when demand requires it. And the league is increasingly being marketed as a major professional sports product rather than a niche competition. Clark did not create all of these changes by herself. The WNBA had been growing before she arrived, and stars such as Aya Wilson, Breanna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Sabrina Ionescu, and many others helped build the foundation. But Clark accelerated the conversation. That distinction matters. It would be inaccurate to say that one player single-handedly created the WNBA's growth. However, it is equally difficult to deny that her arrival changed the scale of public attention. For Adam Silver, that creates both an opportunity and a responsibility. The NBA has spent years developing global basketball into a massive entertainment business. Now the WNBA is becoming an increasingly important part of that strategy. The goal is not simply to sell more jerseys or fill more seats. It is to create a sustainable league with stronger media exposure, better facilities, greater player compensation, and a larger international audience. And that brings us back to Caitlin Clark. The biggest question is not whether the league should protect Clark. The real question is how the WNBA can protect all of its players while allowing its biggest stars to thrive. Fans want competitive basketball. Players want consistency. Veterans want their accomplishments respected. New fans want compelling storylines. And the league wants to capitalize on unprecedented momentum. Those goals can conflict. Adam Silver's comments have therefore attracted so much attention because they represent something larger than one controversial play or one superstar. They reflect the changing economics of professional women's basketball. The WNBA is entering a new era. Caitlin Clark is one of the biggest reasons people are watching that transformation happen in real time. But the league's long-term success will depend on much more than one player. It will depend on whether the WNBA can turn this surge of attention into lasting growth for every team, every player, and every fan. The spotlight is brighter than ever. And now, the real challenge begins, turning the Caitlin Clark phenomenon into the future of the WNBA without losing the history and identity that made the league worth watching in the first place. Welcome back to the Clark Update. The WNBA is entering a period of change unlike anything it has experienced before, and Caitlin Clark is at the center of the conversation. From travel and expansion to officiating, television, and the league's marketing strategy, almost every part of the business is being examined through a new lens. One of the clearest signs of that transformation is the league's move toward expanded charter air travel. For years, WNBA players dealt with the frustrations of commercial travel. Long security lines, delayed flights, crowded airports, inconvenient connections, and uncomfortable seating were simply part of the job. Cost was always a major factor. Chartering flights across an entire professional league is expensive, and the WNBA had to operate within financial limitations that larger sports organizations did not face. But the league's financial reality has changed. As attendance, television audiences, sponsorship opportunities, and overall interest have grown, the argument for improved travel has become much stronger. Player safety and recovery are no longer issues that can easily be separated from the business conversation. When a league expects its athletes to perform at an elite level, the conditions surrounding that performance matter. And Caitlin Clark has made that discussion impossible to ignore. Her enormous popularity has created larger crowds, greater media attention, and additional logistical challenges whenever she enters an arena. That does not mean every change was made specifically because of Clark, but her arrival accelerated conversations that were already developing. The message is clear: the WNBA wants to operate like a major professional sports league. That shift has enormous implications. For smaller market franchises, however, rapid improvement also creates financial pressure. Better travel, larger facilities, expanded staffing, improved production, and increased security all cost money. Teams that were built around the economics of an emerging league now have to adapt to the economics of a rapidly expanding entertainment business. That is the difficult side of growth. The league wants to look like a premium global sports property, but becoming one requires significant investment before every franchise is equally prepared to absorb the additional costs. And travel is only one piece of the puzzle. Expansion may be the biggest transformation of all. The WNBA is no longer talking about growth as a distant possibility. New markets and expansion teams are becoming a major part of the league's future. Golden State has already entered the picture, while additional markets have been discussed as potential homes for future franchises. For existing players, that creates an unusual situation. Expansion means more jobs, more teams, more games, more fans, and more opportunities for the league to generate revenue. But it can also disrupt established rosters. Expansion drafts can force teams to make difficult decisions, and established players may suddenly find themselves facing uncertainty about where they will play next. That tension is unavoidable when a league grows quickly. There is also a larger question surrounding the timing. Why expand so aggressively now? Because the WNBA has momentum. Caitlin Clark has helped bring an extraordinary number of new eyes to women's basketball, but she is part of a much larger generation of stars. Aya Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, Angel Reese, and numerous other players have helped turn individual matchups into major national stories. The league now has something it has been trying to build for decades: a broad audience that is emotionally invested in the players and rivalries. That creates an incentive to move quickly. Every additional team represents another market. Every additional roster creates more opportunities for players. Every additional game creates more television inventory. And every new city creates another opportunity to build a fan base. But speed also creates anxiety. Some longtime observers worry that expansion could happen faster than the league's talent pool can comfortably support. Others believe that growing now is precisely what will allow the league to develop the infrastructure and financial resources necessary to become stronger in the future. Then there is the issue of the next collective bargaining agreement. As the league's value rises, players naturally expect their compensation and working conditions to rise with it. The challenge is that business growth can happen faster than negotiations can keep pace. Television deals, sponsorships, expansion fees, and attendance records can change the financial landscape in a matter of months, while labor agreements are designed to establish stability over several years. That creates a potentially explosive negotiation. Players know their value has increased. League officials know the opportunity is enormous. The question is how that new wealth will be distributed. And then we reach the most controversial subject, the way the league markets its stars. For years, the WNBA often emphasized collective success, community, and the idea that every player contributed to the league's growth. But modern sports marketing is built around personalities. Fans follow stars. They buy jerseys because of stars. They watch games because of rivalries. They share highlights because of individual performances. And social media thrives on debate. Caitlin Clark has become one of the biggest examples of that reality. Her rivalries and interactions with other stars generate enormous engagement. Matchups involving Clark can attract attention far beyond the normal basketball audience. Some fans love the competitive drama. Others believe the constant focus on rivalries unfairly turns players into villains and heroes. That criticism deserves to be taken seriously. A league can use competition to build interest without reducing its players to characters in a manufactured storyline. There is a difference between promoting a great rivalry and deliberately creating conflict. Still, the business results are difficult to dismiss. The WNBA is attracting attention at a level that would have been difficult to imagine only a few years ago. More people are watching. More people are discussing games. More people are buying merchandise. And more media organizations are treating the league as an important sports property. That is the opportunity Adam Silver and the NBA now have to navigate. The goal should not simply be to make the WNBA look like the NBA. The women's game has its own history, personalities, playing style, and culture. The challenge is to provide the resources of a major professional sports organization without erasing the identity that made the league unique. Officiating is another area where that balance becomes critical. There has been intense debate about how physical defenders should be allowed to play against Clark and other perimeter stars. Some fans believe certain players have received excessive physical treatment. Others argue that physical defense has always been part of professional women's basketball and that changing the standard too dramatically risks altering the sport. The real solution is consistency. Players need to know what constitutes a legal defensive play. Coaches need predictable standards. Officials need to enforce those standards equally. And stars should be protected from dangerous contact without receiving an entirely different rulebook. That distinction is important. The idea that the league has secretly rewritten its rules specifically for Clark is a claim that should be treated cautiously. There is no need to invent a hidden directive to explain why the league is emphasizing offensive freedom, player safety, and entertainment value. Those are broader trends throughout modern basketball. The sport has been moving toward pace, spacing, three-point shooting, and offense for years. Clark simply fits that evolution exceptionally well. Her ability to shoot from deep, create shots, and make highlight reel passes makes her particularly valuable in an environment built around quick offense and social media highlights. When she hits a long three or delivers a spectacular assist, the clip can travel far beyond the traditional basketball audience. That is the modern sports economy. A single highlight can become a marketing campaign. A single matchup can become a national event. A single player can introduce millions of casual fans to an entire league. But that also means the pressure surrounding Clark is enormous. Defenders know that every hard foul can become a national debate. Coaches know that every decision involving her can be analyzed endlessly. And the league knows that every controversy has the potential to become another headline. This is why the current moment feels so different. The WNBA is no longer operating in the same environment it occupied several years ago. The money is bigger. The audiences are larger. The expectations are higher. The scrutiny is relentless. And Caitlin Clark is one of the most visible symbols of that transformation. The question now is whether the league can turn this attention into something sustainable. If it can improve player conditions, expand intelligently, invest in its stars, develop new markets, maintain competitive integrity, and share its growing financial success with its players, the WNBA could become one of the most influential professional sports leagues in the world. But rapid growth always comes with growing pains. Veterans may feel overlooked. Younger players may feel pressure to become marketable personalities. Smaller franchises may struggle with rising costs. Fans may debate whether the league is changing too quickly. Those disagreements are not necessarily signs of failure. They may simply be signs that the WNBA has entered a completely different stage of its existence. The league that existed before the current boom was built through patience, sacrifice, and decades of work from players who rarely received the attention they deserved. The league of the future will be built on that foundation, but it will operate on a much larger stage. Caitlin Clark did not create that foundation, and she cannot single-handedly determine where the WNBA goes next. But her arrival has accelerated the conversation in a way few people could have predicted. Now the responsibility belongs to everyone. The league must protect its players without creating unfairness. Teams must grow without losing financial discipline. Marketers must create excitement without manufacturing unnecessary hostility. And the players must continue proving that the WNBA's value extends far beyond one superstar. The stakes have never been higher. The spotlight is brighter than ever. And if the league gets this next chapter right, the Caitlin Clark era may ultimately be remembered not simply as the moment one superstar changed women's basketball, but as the moment the entire WNBA finally entered the global sports conversation for good. Caitlin Clark and the WNBA's new reality. The WNBA is entering a new financial era, and one of the biggest questions is what that growth will eventually mean for player salaries. As league revenue increases, the salary cap is expected to rise as well. That means some of the players frustrated by today's changes could eventually benefit enormously from them. 5 years from now, the same athletes questioning the league's direction today could be signing contracts worth millions more than they ever imagined. But that future does not make the present transition any easier. Veteran players are being asked to adjust to a rapidly changing league. The style of basketball is evolving, the business model is becoming more corporate, and the spotlight is brighter than ever. For players who spent years building the WNBA before the current boom, that transformation can feel like being pushed aside for a new generation. And the league office has not always handled that transition gently. The tone surrounding the WNBA has become noticeably more business-focused. The old relationship between players and league leadership often felt more collaborative and personal. Now, there is a stronger sense of corporate urgency. The message is simple: the league has an opportunity, and it cannot afford to waste it. That helps explain why Caitlin Clark has become such a central figure in this transformation. Her arrival did not create the WNBA, but it dramatically increased the scale of attention surrounding it. Every decision involving Clark is now examined for potential favoritism. Every hard foul, controversial call, and marketing decision becomes a national discussion. Clark herself is under enormous pressure because she is no longer viewed simply as a basketball player. She has become one of the most recognizable faces of an entire business. That can be both an opportunity and a burden. At the same time, the impact extends beyond the United States. International players, overseas leagues, sponsors, and basketball organizations are watching the WNBA's growth closely. A more commercially successful league becomes a more attractive destination for international talent and a stronger competitor for global basketball attention. The stakes are therefore much larger than one rookie season. The WNBA is trying to establish itself as a major professional sports property, and that requires difficult decisions. Some will be celebrated. Others will create resentment. But rapid growth rarely happens without disruption. The biggest question now is what happens when the next superstar arrives. Will the league provide that player with the same level of attention? Will the next generation receive the same commercial opportunities? Or will Caitlin Clark remain a unique case because of the extraordinary circumstances surrounding her arrival? Those questions will shape the league's credibility. The WNBA also has to prove that its growth can benefit everyone, not just its biggest star. Veterans need recognition. Younger players need opportunities. Teams need financial stability. And fans need to believe that the competition remains fair. If the league can accomplish that balance, the long-term rewards could be enormous. The WNBA is no longer simply trying to survive or slowly catch up with other professional sports leagues. It is attempting to establish the pace of its own growth. The transition may be uncomfortable, but it has already changed expectations. The game is becoming faster. The audience is becoming larger. The financial stakes are increasing. And the spotlight is getting brighter. Caitlin Clark may have accelerated this transformation, but the future of the WNBA will ultimately depend on what the entire league does with the opportunity. The old era is fading. A new one has arrived. And the decisions being made today could determine what women's professional basketball looks like for decades to come.